So today we're going to take notes on dividing fractions. Some of them will begin with a whole number and some of them will begin with a fraction. So our question is, how do we know what to do with the word problems? So let's practice. Let's first label. We're going to have a mixed review of division. So let's start with a word problem. So I have Samantha who has 1/4 of a yard of ribbon. She cuts it into 5 equal pieces. What fraction of a yard is each piece of ribbon? Now my action word, it's telling me that she's cutting it up. I can assume that those are going to be equal pieces. This is telling me that I'm doing division. So let's look at a second word problem. So I have a field day that's 3 hours long. And you spend only 1/5 of an hour at each station. How many different stations will you get to visit on field day? One of these problems is going to be a fraction divided by a whole number, and the other one is going to be a whole number divided by a fraction. So how do I know which one is which? Let's start with the first problem that we had. So I need to ask myself, what am I starting off with? What does Samantha have in the beginning of her problem? She doesn't have 5 equal pieces yet. She has 1/4 of a yard. So this one I know that I'm going to start with 1/4 because that's what she's starting with in her problem. So I'm going to do 1/4 of a yard divided by those 5 equal pieces. So and this is problem number 5. I'm going to label that. And this is all about Samantha. Now let's take a look at my second problem that I said. Field day here is 3 hours long. So you only spend 1/5 of an hour at each station. How many different stations will you get there? What am I starting with? Am I starting with 1/5 of an hour and I'm going to split that up? No, I'm starting with my field day, which is 3 hours long. And I need to divide that time into the stations. So 3 is what I'm starting with. So for this one, this problem said number 3, and this one's all about field day. So this one, I'm going to split that 3 hours up. So 3 is what's going to go first. And I'm going to divide it into 1/5 of an hour parts. And I want to see how many stations I can actually get to that day. So I'm going to take my word problems away. Now I have to remember what we've talked about previously. If 1/4 is written first in my problem, that's what I need to draw a picture of. So I'm going to draw one rectangle and I'm going to divide it into 4 parts. And I have to show what 1/4 looks like. 1/4 looks like, this is the one where I'm going to shade because I have to show what 1/4 looks like. Now how can I split that into 5 equal parts? I've already split it this direction, so I need to go the opposite direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now my question said, Samantha has 1/4 of a yard of ribbon. I did that. She cut it into 5 equal pieces. What fraction of a yard is each piece of ribbon? This is my first piece of ribbon, my second, my third, my 4th, and my 5th. Just like we've done previously, let's look at the one I've labeled 1. How big is that piece of ribbon? That piece of ribbon is 1 part out of how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So my answer is 1/20. What fraction of a yard? So 1/20 of a yard. Let's see if that logically makes sense. I'm starting with 1/4 of a yard of ribbon, and I have to cut that into pieces, so I know I'm going to get smaller. And 1/20 is much smaller, so that makes sense to me. Let's see if this meets the pattern. 1 stays the same, 4 times 5 is 20, and I use that as my denominator. That does match my pattern. So I'm going to look at my next problem, my field day. This is the one that I had the whole number because I had my 3 hours. Now to solve this problem, I need to draw my first number, which is 3. So I'm going to draw 3 rectangles. Well, they do kind of look like squares. And I have to cut them up into fifths. So that means I need to cut each one into fifths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now my question says, how many different stations will I be able to go to on field day? So during my first hour, I'll be able to go to 5 stations. My second hour, I'll be able to go to 5 stations. Third one, I will be able to go to 5 stations. 5, 10, 15. How many different stations? 15 stations. That makes sense to me because I'm not going to go to a fraction of a station. What does that mean? I get to the station and then leave before completing it? No, I'm looking for my number of stations and it's going to get larger. So let's look at 2 more problems. Let's look at, I have a problem here about a first day of school. So let's practice again. So I have a word problem and I have to figure out, is it going to be a fraction divided by a whole number or a whole number divided by a fraction? On the first day of school, our teacher had half a bundle of blank paper. Already I'm thinking, I have a half, so I think that's the number I'm starting with. So I think it's going to be a fraction divided by a whole number, but let's see. She gave the paper to 3 of her students equally. She gave them, that means she's splitting them up evenly. Here are my action words that are telling me I'm going to divide. How much of the bundle did each student put in their desk? I'm pretty confident that I'm doing a half divided by 3. You may go ahead and pause the video and see if you can solve this and try the model on your own. Alright, now that you have unpaused, let's see if my solution matches yours. I have to draw a picture that shows my first number, my first item. So I'm going to draw 1 rectangle split in half. Well, I have to shade that in order to show a half. Now, I'm sharing this with 3 students. So I have to go the other direction, split it into 3. I need to figure out how much each student got. The first student gets this one, the second student gets this shaded part, and the third student gets this one. How much does one student get? 1 part out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My denominator is always the total number of parts that are in that square. But I have to figure out what word I'm going to write. How much of the bundle did every student put in their desk? 1/6 of a bundle. I hope that matched the model that you did. Let's practice a few more. I'm going to turn my notebook over. So I have this guy, Louie. He's building a skateboard ramp. He has a piece of wood that's 7 feet long. Already I hear that he started with that piece of wood. I can imagine that really long piece of wood. I've gone to Lowe's or Home Depot and gotten a long piece of wood before. How many 1/4 foot pieces of wood can he cut? So he's going to take his saw and he's going to keep cutting into 1/4 of a foot and he's going to see how many he can fit in there. So cutting, that's telling me I'm doing division, right? My question is, how many of those pieces am I going to be able to fit? I started with 7 feet. So I'm going to do 7 divided by 1/4. Now what do I do for my model? You may pause the video, see if you can do the model on your own. Okay, so I assume you've hit play. We're back here. Let's see if my model matches yours. I have the first number says 7, so I must be drawing 7 rectangles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I need to divide them into 1/4 foot pieces. So I'm going to split each model up into fourths. Now I'm not shading anything because I'm not just talking about one of the parts. The question says, how many pieces of wood? How many parts did he cut? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. He cut 28 pieces. If I go back and look at my question, does it make sense for it to be a whole number or to be a fraction? How many 1/4 foot pieces of wood is he going to be able to cut? Yes, it's going to be a whole number, and it's going to be larger, because I can imagine my really long piece of wood, if I cut it up into sections, I'm going to end up with a lot of pieces on that floor after I cut them all up. That makes sense to me. I have 2 more problems here that I would like you to practice on your own, and then we'll go through and review. Let me read them out loud, and then you copy them onto your notes and begin to solve them on your own. Pause the video as you need to in order for you to solve. William collected 1/3 of a pound of strawberries. I know the strawberry patch that's right around the corner from school is about to open next week. He has to divide, there's my action word. He has to divide them equally among 5 wooden baskets. How many pounds of strawberries did William put in each wooden basket? The next problem says, Anne-Marie feeds her parakeet 1/8 cup of food each day. There are 5 cups of parakeet food in the bag. How many days will the bag of parakeet food last? So go ahead and pause the video right here, and you can see both word problems and work through them at your own pace. Be sure to use your notes if you need to go back and look at examples of how to do them. Okay, so if you are back, then you are ready to see if the way that I solve them matches yours. I'm going to start with the first one. William collected 1/3 of a pound of strawberries. I know he started with 1/3, and he's going to divide them equally among 5 baskets. So I have to draw 1 rectangle. I'm going to cut them into thirds. I have to shade to show 1/3. Now I have to split this third into 5 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This goes to the first, the second, the third, the 4th basket, and the 5th basket. So I'm just looking at the first. That represents 1 part out of how many? 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So my answer is, how many pounds of strawberries do you put in each basket? 1/15 of a pound. I'm going to move on to my last one. Anne-Marie feeds her parakeet 1/8 cup of food each day. Is that what she's starting with? Well, I'm not sure. There are 5 cups of parakeet food in the bag. That's what she's starting with, a big bag of parakeet food. So just because 1/8 is written first does not mean that's what goes first in my problem. Because she didn't start with 1/8 cup of food and split that. She started with 5 cups of parakeet food. So I have to do 5 divided by 1/8. I can picture that she might even buy a scoop from the store that measures 1/8 of a cup, and she scoops them out. So I need to draw my first number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need to cut each one into eighths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now I have a good strategy of how to cut them up into eighths. So my question says, how many days will this bag last? So I get to feed 8 different times on the first day, 8 the next. I'm sorry, not out of the 5 cups. So I get 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. 5 times 8 is 40. So this will last me 40 days. Thank you. If you need to go back and rewind, replay the video, feel free to do that.